Shir is dedicated to Nishmas Rav Leah Bas Rav Chaim Tzvi. We've been discussing the Malach of Tzeda. We've really used the Malach of Tzeda as an opportunity to do some chazara on some of the very, very fundamental klale Shabbos in Yonim. And in the last year, we spent a good amount of time just developing the idea, the fundamental chakira. When it comes to Psik Reisha, how exactly do we view Psik Reisha? Do we view Psik Reisha as, what is the reason that a davar she'eino miskaven is mutter? Psik Reisha is going to be an Issa Doraisa. And then we saw the machlokas between the Aruch and the Baalei HaTosas, Psik Reisha de lo nichale, where you do not desire the malacha that is unintentionally caused. What's the reason? There's machlokas, Psik Reisha de lo nichale. What's the reason? Not what's the reason that the Aruch says is Psik Reisha de lo nichale is mutter. Tosfos says Psik Reisha de lo nichale is Issa D'Rabbanan. What exactly is the underpinning of that particular machlokas? So we explained that based on Rav Elchanan Wasserman in Maseches Ksubas Davav, that the following chakira, how exactly do you view this movement from davar she'eino miskaven, which is mutter, to Psik Reisha, which is Issa D'Oraisa, and then the next step to Psik Reisha to lo nichale? So how do we view that? So one possibility is that of the Aruch, and that is that basically what happens with Psik Reisha is, if it's a Psik Reisha to nichale, you desire the unintended consequence. If it's good for you, you want it, there's a ratzon for it, so al pidin, you transform yourself from an eino miskaven into miskaven. You can't tell me you don't have kavanah for that secondary result when it's such a good thing for you, and therefore al pidin you're called a miskaven, and therefore it's mutter. However, if it's lo nichale, you do not need that unintended result, you're not interested in whatsoever, so Psik Reisha lo nichale puts you back into a davar she'eino miskaven and is mutter. That's the lamdus, and that's the chiddush of the Aruch. Psik Reisha de lo nichale is mutter. We explained the Baalei HaTosas hold Psik Reisha de lo nichale is an Isser D'Rabbanan, and it's the flip side, or somehow it's connected to malacha she'eino tzrich l'gufan. We suggested there the lamdus is that when you go ahead and have that situation of Psik Reisha, so Psik Reisha effectively collapses the two actions, action A and action B, causes them to be al pidin ma'isa echad, causes them to be al pidin one collapsed action. You drag the bench across the field, heavy bench will definitely produce charisha, so al pidin you can't say that that's two actions, an action of pulling the bench across the field and an action of charisha, if it's inevitably going to take place, that the charisha will definitely accompany the pulling the bench off across the field, and pulling the bench across the field is the charisha. It's one action, and therefore, if it's nichale, you want the action, it's good for you, so you had kavanah to pull the bench across the field, it is charisha, that's what it is. Pulling a bench across a soft field, which will definitely produce charisha, furrowing, that's charisha, you're doing charisha, and therefore you can't tell me that's called eino miskaven. You have kavanah for that single action, one action, you have kavanah for the action, it's called aser, it's going to be Issa D'Oraisa. But if it's lo nichale, so then the reason that you're exempt, you're aser midrabanan, you had kavanah, it's all one action still, because it's a Psik Reisha, but it's lo nichale. That means that you're doing this malacha for a purpose other than it was done in the Mishkan. In the Mishkan, when you go ahead, for example, and pull out hairs out of your head or out of an animal, it was for the sake of using the hairs. But let's say you're just combing the back of an animal. You're combing. Or you're combing your own hair. So your purpose there is to comb the hair. Now, inevitably, you're pulling out hairs. So combing hair is pulling out hairs. But in the Mishkan, why do they pull out hairs? To use the hairs. Here, you're pulling out hairs to straighten out the hair, straighten out the fur. That is a malacha she'eino tzrich l'gufan Issa D'Rabbanan. So that's the fundamental chakir, and then we showed expansions or extreme versions of the Ma'isa Echad Svara, the Rashba, the Rambam, Shitas Rashi, a number of different places. That was the last year. There's one other application of this chakir, a pretty famous one, that again emerges from Meleches Seda. I think we might have mentioned it, but again, just to complete the picture, we'll take a look once again. A very, very fascinating machlokas between the Taz in Hilchos Shabbos and the Ramah in Yoreh De'ah. What's the case over here? So you have the following scenario. This is found in Siman Shin Tes Zayin. And the case is as follows. Shin Tet Zayin Halacha Gimel. So the Ramah writes over here that if you have creatures, insects, bugs, flies, so since flies are not typically something you want to catch, it's ein b'mino nitzo. You don't like to trap. Flies are not something people don't have fly collections. They don't have any use for flies. So if you were to trap a fly, it's not the type of animal that is normally trapped. That's an issur d'rabbanan, not an issur d'oraisa. You only have in Torah for trapping animals, which is the derech to trap them. Okay, fine. Says the Rama, v'lachein yesh li hizaher. A person has to be very, very wary and careful. Shelo lizgar teva ktano listam kelim shezvum bo b'Shabbos. That a psik reisha shiatzudu sham. A person should be wary of closing a box. Let's say you have some kind of small garbage box, and you know that animals, insects permeate around the garbage box. You close it. You can't close it on Shabbos because what's going to happen? You don't